Day has just not been my day. I've learned something from trying to keep mint indoors. It would probably be better if I could just plant it outside. It's a little more particular about how much moisture is in the soil than some of the other plants, which makes it a little bit harder to keep in a pot in window. The other one, with the dish at the bottom instead of rocks in the bottom, would have done well if it hadn't have also come with a parasite. Yeah, that's what I was able to partially get rid of, and then it flared back, and there's nothing I can do at this point. Both plants are gonna die. There's nothing I can do at this point, except hope that there's enough roots, but even then that's not likely. These plants are going. I can try, I can keep on watering them, and that's what I'm gonna do, but it's very likely that they're just not gonna make it at all. So, yeah. The rosemary isn't particularly finicky. The basil is thriving. In fact, I actually struggle to water it often enough, though basil takes a lot of water. I would love to have an outside area to work with this stuff, but that's not going to happen. I missed my aloe veras. Years and years ago, as a teenager, I'd planted some aloes in the planter out front of my grandparents' house. I got them from the pups, which is what you call them, of someone else's aloe vera. Diana gave me some, and they thrived. She was surprised because she thought that it would take longer for them to start, sprouting off the shoots. But they thrived, and they did it that same year. It was only a couple months later. I'd gotten a couple agave that also were good with healing, but they were kind of I forget what they're called. I think it was agave peria? No, that's something else. Is it? It was basically a close relative of the aloe vera, but spikier. So, the leaves were still good for healing if you could get past it. It was more tasty though, less healing property, more just tasty. So, you could cook it. I had some remnants of that. I'd managed to save a couple before from my grandparents' house, and I'd had them with me in pots. And my ex-husband, if you don't have insulated windows, we don't have insulated windows, so I don't even know what we're gonna do as the weather gets hotter anyway. Except that shelf is going to become absolutely necessary to even hope to keep these plants. And I'm gonna have to figure out something to adapt for the basil, because it keeps on getting up to the window, and it's not gonna be able to do that because the leaves are gonna cook. Anyway, in an old apartment that we'd had together, the windows had no insulation whatsoever. So my ex-husband decided that it would be a great idea to put all my aloe plants in the window. I'd wanted them on the table. We had no blinds anyway, so, being on a table would have been fine. They would have had enough light. He decided to put them in the window. After we decided to put the sheets up over the window to kind of help insulate, I was like, well, I can just pull it back at some point during the day, or put them in the bedroom where the sliding glass doors. I had different plans going on in my head. My plans were dead within the first day or two. There was no more figuring anything out. My plants were just cooked. My poor aloe veras, because the heat that had gotten in there was just that bad. It was that intense that it cooked my aloe veras. I'm gonna go out on a thing and admit that he would have never heard the end of that. Those were pretty important to me. I started that garden out of a gift, and I wanted to eventually use those to start another one. In true form, my grandparents actually got rid of it. Everything I planted that was still there, everything I held dear, they went out of their way to get rid of. Specifically, my grandmother was more determined to do so, but my grandfather still went ahead and did it and followed in that anyway. So, like, everything I cared about, as far as, like, things that I did and held dear, either they were taken from me or destroyed after I left. Sold, in some cases. My grandfather refused to allow me to have some of my things, and they ended up sold because he deemed that they had some sort of value and that he had the right to do this. He didn't have the right to do this, and neither did my grandmother. My family are terrible. My grandparents, I just to revisit this, I did not actually know that my ex-husband was doing what he did. He didn't ask, he didn't check, and he just did it. I was busy doing most of the unpacking while juggling an infant while he whined about the fact that, about everything, really, and didn't want to do anything. And I still had to do this. Even though, like, this was a thing. And just, he and Pyro were just so goddamn lazy. And next thing I know, my plants are cooked. I was not happy about it. That's what happens when I try to sit and put my feet up. He crawled up here and wedged his way in there. My leg's gonna fall down, cat. You're fine. Ow! Get your claw out of my knee, brat. At least that one wasn't on purpose. If it was, you're gonna get sprayed.